Welcome to day 2 of our official countdown to the U.S. presidential election, with just one day of campaigning left for Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump and Democratic presidential candidates and Vice President Kamala Harris. I'm Amarachi Ubani here in Lagos, where we have our team coordinating coverage across the United States as much as we can. Already, more than 78 million people have voted in this election. Their ballots will be counted when voting ends on Tuesday, November 5. So here's what's coming up this hour. The candidates Donald Trump and Kamala Harris hold their rally and their last campaigns, giving their close messages to voters ahead of the big day tomorrow. Vice President Harris will be campaigning in Pennsylvania today. Trump will be heading to North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. There's tight security across the U.S. Capitol, Washington, D.C., ahead of the presidential elections. Plus, we'll take a look at early voting wrapping up in the states of Florida and Ohio. Let's begin with the former U.S. President Donald Trump campaigning in one of the battleground states, the state of Pennsylvania. On Sunday, he was there making a last pitch for support. Pennsylvania is the largest of the 7 states expected to decide who wins the presidential election on November 5. At the rally, the former U.S. president criticized the U.S. election process and the early voting system and said the results of the election should be determined by the end of Election Day on November 5. Opinion polls show he and Vice President Kamala Harris are locked in a tight race, bolstered by strong support among women voters, while Trump has been gaining ground with Hispanic voters, particularly men.
And I want to say this year has been difficult, given the
We'll be hearing from from President Trump later, but let's continue with Vice President Kamala Harris, who was in Michigan on Sunday night making her closing pitch for the U.S. presidency at a rally in East Lansing. She addressed Michigan's 200,000 Arab Americans, starting her speech with a nod to civilian victims of Israel's conflict with Hamas and Hezbollah in Gaza and in Lebanon. She's faced skepticism, though, from some who are frustrated that she's not done more to help end the war in Gaza and scale back aid to Israel. Harris's Republican rival Donald Trump visited Dearborn, Michigan, the heart of the Arab American community, on Friday, where he vowed to end the conflict in the Middle East without saying how.
This year has been difficult, given the scale of death and destruction in Gaza, and given the civilian casualties and displacement in Lebanon. It is devastating. And as president, I will do everything in my power to end the war in Gaza. To bring home the hostages, end the suffering in Gaza, ensure Israel is secure, and ensure the Palestinian people can realize their right to dignity, freedom, security, and self-determination. So Michigan, 2 days to go. In one of the most consequential elections of our lifetime, and we have momentum. It is on our side. Can you feel it? And we have the momentum because our campaign is tapping into the ambitions, the aspirations, and the dreams of the American people. Because we are optimistic and excited about what we can do together. believe health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And to those certain individuals who still want to get rid of the Affordable Care Act and take us back to the days when insurance companies could deny people with pre-existing conditions, well, you all know what we say. We are not going back. We are not going back. We are not going back. And I pledge to listen to people who disagree with me. Because, you see, I don't believe people who disagree with me are the enemy. In fact, I'll give them a seat at the table because that's what strong leaders do.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome
And we can now bring you former President Donald Trump's campaign in Pennsylvania yesterday, where he made a last pitch for support. He criticized the U.S. election process and early voting system, saying the results of the election should be determined by the end of Election Day on Tuesday, November 5. Opinion polls show that he and Vice President Kamala Harris are locked in a tight race, as she bolstered by support among women voters, while Trump gaining ground with Hispanic voters, particularly the men.
And I've come today with a message of hope for all Americans. With your vote on Tuesday, I will end inflation. I will stop the invasion of massive numbers of criminals coming into our country. Thank you very much, Kamala and Joe. And I will bring back the American dream, and we'll bring it back stronger than ever before. But this is all you need to know. Kamala broke it, and we will fix it, and we're going to fix it fast. They are fighting so hard to steal this damn thing. Look at what's going on. Look at what's going on in your state. Every day, they're talking about extending hours and stuff. Who ever heard of this stuff? We should have one-day voting and paper ballots. It's a damn shame. And I'm the only one that talks about it because everyone's afraid to damn talk about it. And then they accuse you of being a conspiracy theorist. He's a conspiracy. And they want to lock you up. They want to put you in jail. The ones that should be locked up are the ones that cheat on these horrible elections that we go through in our country. And I don't know what's going to happen. But for future elections, I won't be even a part of it. But you ought to damn well go to paper ballots. You ought to go to voter ID. And you ought to have the election over by 9 o'clock. I'm hearing now they're going to take weeks. Can you imagine? They spend all this money on machines, and they're going to say, we may take an extra 12 days to determine. And what do you think happens during that 12 days? What do you think happens? These elections have to be decided by 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock on Tuesday night. Bunch of crooked people. These are crooked people. Our country is a crooked country, okay? It's a crooked country, and we're going to make it straight. We're going to make it straight, and it's not an easy thing to do. The real Democrats want to have things like voter ID. They know it's crooked. There's only one reason you don't want voter ID. There's only one reason, and that's to cheat. There is no other reason. There's no other reason. And they do cheat. Isn't this better than my speech? No, because honestly, Somebody's got to talk about it. The polls are just as corrupt as some of the writers back there. They can make those polls sing. They can make them sing. They brag about it. I got a poll, I'm 10 points up in Iowa. One of my enemies just puts out a poll, I'm 3 down. They just announced a fake poll. Hey, think of it. Right before the election, that I'm 3 points down. I'm not down in Iowa. We got 2 days. We've been working for 9 years. We did a great job. We had the best economy ever. We had the wall. We had everything. I built over 500 miles of wall. They don't even talk about the wall. But we had the best border, the safest border. I won't pull down my world's favorite chart because I don't want to waste a lot of your time. But my world's favorite chart, done by the Border Patrol, it said we had the safest border in the history of our country the day that I left.
Oh, while the vice president was in Michigan, her vice presidential running mate, Tim Walz, was in Arizona, where he urged voters to cast their ballots. Opinion polls show a historically close race, and a New York Times Siena College poll published on Sunday showed that Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump are neck and neck in the 7 states that are likely to determine the outcome of Tuesday's election.
Well, it's good to be back in Tucson. Well, not that anybody's counting, folks, but we got 3 days to an election. 3 days to make an impact, not just on the next 4 years, but on the next 40 years. Not just for us, but on future generations. Not just for this country, but for the world. And here's the good news. We're winning. We're winning. And all of you, the older folks will get this, younger folks, trust me, there'll come a day. Someday you're going to be sitting on that porch. You're going to be in that rocking chair. And a little one's going to come up to you after been in school where they've been studying the 2024 election. And they're going to ask, when everything was on the line and the American experiment was on the line, and there was somebody running who asked to be a dictator and to overturn the Constitution and talk about using the military against our own people, what did you do to stop that from happening? And you're going to be able to say, every damn thing we could. Every damn thing we could.
I want to bring in now lawyer and political consultant Curtis Adigba. Curtis is in New Jersey, from where he joins us. Curtis, thank you for joining us on the program. Well, it is quite an earful from the former president of the United States and the Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump. The things he's been saying about America, calling it a crooked country and things like that. It already sounds like, the Trump campaign is softening the ground for polls to be disputed and for the polls to be contested after elections are over and the results are in. His rally in Pennsylvania is just a mirror of his other rallies across the United States. He's almost said similar things at those rallies. So there's a lot of doubt, I don't doubt, in the minds of many of his supporters about the credibility of the polls. But that is laying a dangerous precedent, isn't it?
Well, I'm actually like you quite know about Donald Trump. In every contest that he's not sure of winning, or even when he's sure of winning, he creates doubts about them so that if at the end of the day he doesn't go his way, he will say, I told you, this is a crooked process in a crooked country operated by crooked people. So that's not anything new. What is new is the level of intensity and how close to the election he started. Don't forget that in 2020, he started talking about mail-in ballots very early. He said the only way the Democrats can win is if they rig the process. And he has to be careful this time because he could be getting the kind of effect he does not intend. Because if you are telling your supporters that it's a crooked process, you don't believe in it, citing occurrences that are basically normal in every election cycle in the United States, you could depress turnout from your base. And so that's why he has to be very careful. Something happened in Lancaster whereby I think about 200 people are requested for ballots, and the election handlers determined that they were not qualified to vote. And Trump has latched onto that, saying that that was an evidence of fraud in the election system. But the reverse is the case, in the sense that the system worked by preventing those who were not qualified to vote from getting the ballots. But that's not enough for Trump. Trump is going around trying to create doubts in the mind of voters and just preparing the ground in case he loses the election to say this is a rigged process.
Well, we're seeing the Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris mention Trump's name less and less in her campaigns. I think in her campaign in Michigan yesterday, she actually avoided mentioning Trump for the 20 minutes or so that she spoke. She didn't mention him at all. We've seen, the rhetoric between both of them. Trump calls her a fascist. She says he's not qualified to rule. He's not even fit to be president, according to her, mentally, of course. And then, this issue of voter ID, according to Trump, fixing the election, fixing the American dream, he says. He claims that, the borders were more secure when he left office. He talks about why they cannot have paper voting, why they can't have voter ID. He says these are all avenues that the Democrats want to explore to make sure that the elections are rigged. But America's elections are one of the best in the world, aren't they? The electoral process there's a lot of vetting that goes on, and the Electoral College further vets whoever becomes president of the United States, ensuring that, those swing state votes are untouched and they truly determine who becomes president of the United States.
Yeah, Amarachi, thanks that you observe that in the last few days of the campaign, Kamala Harris has shifted from talking so much about Trump because the internal polling shows that some Americans are not happy that she's wasting her time talking about Trump. I mean, the cake is baked in. If you support Trump, you already will support him, irrespective of how divisive, how incendiary or not, that all the dark and dystopia things that he's saying. And there's basically no American who doesn't know who Trump is at this moment. So there is a shift from focusing on Trump now to what she intends to do for Americans. And so that's why you find her very upbeat, very inspirational, talking about the future, trying to quietly draw that contrast and distinction between her platform and that of Donald Trump. So yes, you notice that quite well. There's been a shift in her messaging in the last few days, because now the game is to focus about what she will do for Americans and not about Donald Trump, because there's nothing Americans don't know about who Donald Trump is at this moment.
Talk about the supporters at both candidates' campaigns, and some of the major issues that stand out for them. I noticed that for the Trump campaign, a lot of people are concerned about immigration, and Trump really harps on that, protecting America's borders, ensuring that illegal immigrants do not come into the country. In the Democratic camp for Kamala Harris, it seems as though there are more softer issues. The economy. She talks about helping Black people to start off businesses and homes. And then, also, of course, is the issue of abortion rights for Americans. But yet you find that there are more women voting for Kamala Harris. And on the side of Trump, you have more Black men voting for Trump, as well as Hispanic men. Talk about the differences, in the people who are supporting both sides and those who are voting for them in this election.
Okay, so here are the issues. If you're a Republican in this election, the top issues for you, for all Americans, the economy is an issue. The polling that we have shows that Trump is more trusted when it comes to the economy, because people want to look back to 2020 and see, what happened when Trump was president? We had The economy was better for me. I had more money in my accounts and all that. But if you listen to Barack Obama, he's been targeting that economic message that gives Trump that advantage to say that, look, I gave him the most buoyant economy America ever had, but he threw it away. He messed it up. There is nothing he has inherited that he has used well. That was my economy. That is the message by Barack Obama, one of the most effective surrogates for Kamala Harris on the campaign trail. The second issue is, and Kamala Harris herself has also been talking about the economy. Yes, she admitted that there are quite some issues in the economy, but she's given proposals about giving people money as paid down for their house buying, for housing, how the government is going to build more houses, how government is going to give child credits to parents to make things easy for them and others. So she's been talking about the economy, talking about confronting manufacturers and suppliers of groceries who are gouging the price. And that is resonating with the people also. Now, the second issue for the Republicans is the immigration, about how the borders are open. Trump talks about Mexico and other countries in South America bringing in the worst set of criminals into America, and that they are killing Americans, raping American women, they're destroying the economy, they're taking jobs from the people. Kamala again is countering by saying, listen, don't use problems to campaign. You should be providing solutions on as far as immigration is concerned. And then she talked about how there was a bipartisan bill in the US Senate. It passed in the House, it got to the Senate. That was the most comprehensive immigration bill, an attempt to fix the immigration problem. But Trump threatened Republicans that whoever supports that bill will lose in the party primaries. And of course, we all know that he has a very strong hold on the Republican Party base. So again, she's countering by arguing that there was a solution that Trump balked. And to that extent, he's not fit and qualified to be president because he's not seeking for solution. He would rather campaign with a problem than face the problem.
Yeah. Well, we have a few hours until voting officially opens in the U.S.
And then when you talk about her chief argument, which is the reproductive rights for women, that women have the rights to make decisions about their bodies. Now, what we understand in our part of the country or part of the world is that once you talk about reproductive rights, people conclude that it's just abortion.
Yeah.
And her position on abortion is centric in the sense that she's saying if a woman is raped or there's been an incest relationship resulting in pregnancy, or that doctors have made the determination that the pregnancy was a threat to the mother, the decision to abort that baby should be taken carefully by the woman, her doctor, and her husband. It's not in the place of government to make a decision about how women's bodies should be treated, because the same government is not making that decision for men. So that's the chief argument. And of course, you know that it was this same issue that stopped the red wave in the midterm election 2 years ago. And women are fired up on this issue, and it is a major advantage for Kamala Harris.
Curtis, thank you so much for delving into these issues with us. You're our first guest on the show. Thank you for joining us on the program. We'll be back after the break. We'll be back after the break with more focus on the U.S. presidential election, plus early voting ending in the states of Ohio and Florida. Those are battleground states. We'll be speaking to 2 Nigerian Americans who voted early in this election. Stay with us. You're watching our special coverage of the U.S. presidential election in 2024. And the U.S. Capitol, Washington, D.C., is preparing for tomorrow's election, and a day for turmoil as well, given what many experienced on January 6, 2021. A lot of businesses are safeguarding against a repeat. Many businesses in the Capitol have been putting up wooden shields, and there's been more security than usual. Some residents say that they're scared of even going to work on Tuesday.
About the election itself, I'm excited. I'm very confident of who I'm going to be voting for, and I think it's a great moment for our country and for the world. A free, fair election, peaceful transition. However it comes, I think that's how it should be, and I'm very confident it will be.
Staying in the U.S. Capitol over the weekend, thousands of women gathered to march towards the White House. They traveled from different cities in a final push to demonstrate in favor of legal abortion and to express their feelings. Executive Director for Women's March, Rachel O'Leary Carmona, said organizers were expecting 5,000 attendees. However, as crowds gathered, they realized that there were close to 10,000 of them at the Freedom Plaza. Republican presidential candidates and former U.S. President Donald Trump is taking credit for appointing the justices who helped overturn the landmark 1973 Roe v. Wade decision, ending a nearly 50-year federal right to abortion in 2022. A court's 2022 decision triggered a voter backlash that was widely credited with curbing Republican gains in the congressional midterm election that year and propelling Democrats to victories in some state elections last year.
We got to stand up for democracy. We have to stand up for a woman's right to have control over her body, control over her life. Women's rights are human rights. And we were back in the hallways. I'm a 77-year-old woman. I remember when women were crying and carrying on with coat hangers and other kinds of means to save their lives. I remember when women were crying out for support and medical care because they needed to have their husbands involved in their lives, and they had no choice. They had to go along with whatever men wanted. So here we are today, standing up for democracy, standing up for the right to choose, standing up for all the women who come before us and behind us.
And if there's one thing this election has done, it's brought us together. It's brought us together as a people to say it's not a matter of being Republican or Democrat. It's just a matter of being a person, and we want to have the rights. Because if we lose this, we could end up being a communist country 10 years from now. And then it won't matter whether you're Republican or a Democrat. What will matter is that you don't have the rights. So yes, I'm excited here. I'm excited that I was able to come here. And I'm excited that I was able to bring other women with me.
Since 2016, we've been telling folks that this is the most consequential election of your lifetime, and each year it's been true, whether it's 2018, 2020, 2022, and more than ever in 2024, we are voting on freedom or fascism, and there's really no middle ground. And so this is, it's a fight for our life. It's the fight for our future, our freedom, our family, and everything that we love is on the line. So it is critical that we all turn out and we all vote.
I'm going to be 65 in January, and I can't believe we're at this point again. And that people have become so cruel and vile and unkind. And this country is really, it's a bunch of puritanical BS that we're based on, right? Because why does anybody need to know who's sleeping with whom anyway?
I'm terrified. I'm terrified as to what's going to happen to this country and women's rights. This is the most election in our country's history. And I think a lot of Americans don't realize that. What's at stake? I'm not overreacting, I'm very rational, but I am very concerned.
Early voting has ended in the state of Ohio, but hundreds of people were still waiting to cast their votes over the weekend. Although polling officially ended at 5 p.m., if voters are in line, they still got to vote.
We've been here for about 2.5 hours. About an hour and a half in, we got some pizza. We've just been finishing it up and just talking with each other, excited to vote.
We got here a little bit after 1 o'clock. We took us a little bit to find parking. We got in line around 2 p.m. and now it's 6 p.m. Eastern time, and we did it. We voted. It feels great. I feel gratified. I feel satisfied, and I'm proud that we added our voice.
It's getting darker out, so I think we're more like chilling now than we were like hype before. But I think the people that are still here are passionate and they care, and it might not be hype, but it's definitely driven.
I've been in line for about 2.5 hours and wanted to do early voting. Realized when I got here that probably a lot of other people had the same idea as well. And I didn't realize it was going to be quite this long, so that's why I stayed in line. But once I'm committed, so I'm just going to finish it out and vote today.
It's been about 2 hours and 20 minutes, and I feel like the energy's pretty good. Everybody is pretty positive for the most part, and we're all just in this together.
What's the mood like? We've been here for 2.5 hours, and the mood is still great. We are almost there. We're in the home stretch.
Been here since 3:15 with these guys as well. I mean, we're here because it's really crucial and important. So many rights are at stake right now: gay rights, feminine rights, everyone's rights, immigration. So it's a big deal. So.
Yeah, and honestly, I couldn't have said it better. So we've been here for about 2.5 hours. So it's been past dinner time. We're hungry.
Early voting has also ended in West Palm Beach. About 59% of registered voters in Palm Beach County have either mailed in their ballots or chosen to vote early. In St. Lucie County, at least 11,871 people have voted early. West Palm Beach is the county seat of Palm Beach County, Florida. That's home of Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence. I want to bring in communication and organizational leadership consultant Kehinde Kolawole and Adetomiwa Adetilewa, who's a senior enterprise med-data, is in Illinois, Chicago. Tomiwa is in New Jersey. Thank you both for joining us on the program today. You already voted early. Tell us why.
I voted early because I wanted to avoid the long queue on the election day. And this election is very important. And the best way I can make sure my one vote count is to vote early rather than waiting for the last minute, which might be chaotic because nobody knows what the weather is going to be like tomorrow.
Is it really about the weather, or is it about the people at the polling stations, the supporters of the different political parties, of the candidates in the election? Isn't that the real reason why you're avoiding going to the polls tomorrow?
Yeah, it's part of it. Politics is the same thing everywhere all over the world. The environment is tense right now. You can see some places where people are asked to leave the line early. Some people have to go to court to extend the voting hours. So there's tension everywhere. It's kind of tense, Politics is the same everywhere. So me voting early gives me the opportunity to avoid the uncertainty of what could happen tomorrow. So I voted early, and it was a smooth process, pretty easy.
What issues stood out for you or stand out for you most in this election?
A lot of things stand out for me. Number one is the economics. I tell people, politics is a game of interest. And unfortunately, some people see politics emotionally. I don't view politics with the prism, of emotion. It's a game of interest. My number one interest is the economy. I know how my life was 4 years ago. I know how it is now. So I have to make a decision. Do I like what I'm going through right now? Is my life better now than it was 4 years ago? So the economy is the number one most important issue. The second issue to me is the world peace. There's so much chaos going on around the world now. And it wasn't like that 4 years ago. So those two things are really, really paramount to me, economy and security.
Thank you so much. Kehinde joins us now. He is in New Jersey. Kehinde is a communication and organizational leadership consultant. Kehinde, thank you for joining the conversation. You also voted early in this election. Do you mind telling us why?
Yeah, I voted early simply because of enthusiasm. I am so highly elated to be able to vote early and to be able to elect, emphatically, I'm stating it, to be part of history, to elect the first female president of the United States of America.
Well, you've wasted no time telling us who you voted for. For both of you, this is not your first election. You have voted in the past. You voted in previous elections. Has anything changed in your voting patterns if you voted for a different party now than you voted before?
Well, for me, the pattern has not changed because one of the contestants, his pattern of rhetoric has not changed. So, and when you look at it, that is not what politics is all about, in my opinion. Politics is all about providing good leadership for the people and not heating up the polity. When you look at the campaign of President Trump, he has been able to hit up the U.S. politics, bringing in a lot of lies, propaganda, things that are not true. And I'm a person that has his conscience. I believe in truth. I could have voted for Trump if he has been telling the truth all the time. He's been lying. In 2020, President Trump lied about the outcome of the election. And for the first time in the history of the U.S., an American president was saying the election wasn't free and fair. And look at it this way. It is simple, logical thinking. President Trump claimed 4 years ago that the election was not free and fair. And after 4 years, he's still contesting on that same system. The electoral system has not changed in the past 4 years. And mostly, same set of people will be conducting this same election. Why, if he doesn't have confidence in the election that was conducted in 2020, why is he contesting again this time? And when you look at it this time, he's been to court several times. Republicans have been to court several times to challenge the election result that has not been conducted. It shows there is fear somewhere, panicking, unnecessary panicking. And most of the court case they have instituted against 2020 election were thrown out by the court. So you will see that the system, nothing is wrong with the electoral system. I'm not saying it is perfect, but then it is still okay. It is still good. I went to vote, no rancor. Everything was peaceful. And this is New York. Everything here in New York is peaceful. I went around New York this morning. I've been to New Jersey. We are living normal life. And when you look at it in 2020, when the election was conducted, President Trump lost, and he claimed he didn't lose. And he instigated people against the government, which was resurrection. So, and when you look at his life, even personal business, it's been lies upon lies upon lies, right? So you can't take anything away from me. I am an immigrant. Somebody is telling me that if he's able to win this election, he's going to throw out immigrants. No. He wants to change the course of history of America, that the history of America cannot be insulated from immigrants. The blood and sweat of immigrants was used to build this country. Look at the history of the founding fathers of America. They came from Europe. The founding fathers of this country, they came from Europe. The original owner of America were the Red Indians. And where are they today? So if anybody is saying he's going to throw me out, although I'm a legal resident, I'm documented, those that came to America from other countries, let us be realistic. They all have one thing or the other that sent them out of their country before coming here. And truly, let us speak the truth. This is what they call America. God bless America. Truly, God bless this country. And when you talk of the economy, I'm telling you.
Okay, so we will talk about your opinions on the economy, but I wanted to give Adetomiwa some room to come in here and to discuss why exactly, whether he has voted differently in this election than he's voted in previous elections. Adetomiwa.
Thank you so much. Before I go to that, let me quickly say something about what he said, which is a pure misinformation. President Trump did not say he's going to throw out legal immigrants. President Trump himself is a son of an immigrant. His mom is an immigrant. His wife is an immigrant. President Trump is not saying he wants to throw out legal immigrants. What President Trump said is that undocumented immigrants who break the law by crossing the border illegally are those ones that is returning back to their country. And in fact, he emphatically said it is those among them who commit crime in the United States, who are gang members, who are released from the prison from their country. Those are the people he's sending back. And I don't think that is wrong for any leader of any same country to say. For instance, if you have criminal record, you can't get visa to travel to Canada. That is not racism. So President Trump is not throwing my brother away because my brother is a citizen of the United States, and it is not possible for any president to deport a citizen of the United States. Now, coming back to your point, let me tell you why I'm voting for Trump this year. I have a friend, I talked to him here in Chicago. He didn't know who I'm going to vote for, and he assumed being a black person, I'll probably vote for Democrat. So he asked me, how am I voting? I didn't say anything. He said, I want you to please vote for Donald Trump. I said, but you are a Muslim. Why are you voting for somebody who the media said doesn't like Muslim? Mm-hmm. You know what he told me? He said, Tommy, I'm from Palestine. He's a real Palestinian. And that when Trump was in power, 50,000 Palestinians didn't die needlessly. Neither was 1,300 Israeli killed by the Hamas. He said, so if I survived 4 years of Trump and my family didn't survive 3.5 years of Kamala, why should we vote for Kamala? That thing really touches my heart. Guess what? We might not like the rhetoric of Trump. There was peace all over the world. Hamas wasn't attacking Israel. Israel wasn't bombing Hamas, which later leads to a lot of innocent people dying. There was peace everywhere. Iran wasn't doing nonsense. Russia wasn't invading Ukraine. The economy was really good. Unemployment number was really low. Gas price was really cheap. Like, then I can travel 4 or 5 hours with $10 gas. Now you hardly buy 2-3 gallon with $50. With $10. So what am I saying in essence? Everything is now expensive in America. There is no amount of emotion you want to put at it when you have to look into your pocket, when you have to pay more for mortgage. In 2018, 2019, people bought house so cheap with low interest rate. So as an immigrant, a poor person who is trying to climb the ladder to live the American dream, they were able to buy houses for 3% interest rate. Now the minimum interest rate you can get is 7%. Do you know what it takes to pay 7% on $400,000 a year? That's a lot of money getting out of everybody's pocket. Everything is now expensive. So I don't want that. Whatever the emotion about electing the first black female president is a good thing to see. I want to see a female president. I want to see people of color in there. But guess what? The numbers are not really good for them. The economy is really bad.
So I hear both of you.
So those are the two things.
I hear both of you talk about the American dream. Adetomiwa, sorry, I have to button here. I hear both of you talk about the American dream. What is the dream for you, Adetomiwa? What is the American dream for you?
The American dream for me is for me to be able to wake up, to know that me and my family, we are safe. I can afford to put a roof over their head. I'm not going to lose my job because the policy that Kamala supports shipping job abroad. I don't want to lose my job because globalists want to take my job abroad.
Kamala did not
I want to be able. Hold on. I don't want to Let me quickly land this. I don't want to pay more in taxes. I want to pay less in taxes so I can have more money in my pocket. I don't want to pay too much taxes on overtime because if I work overtime, it's for me to make more money. I shouldn't be penalized for working. Those are the things I see as American dream.
Kayde, what is the American dream for you?
Is it my turn?
What is the American dream for you?
I'm asking if, okay. My American dream, I'm pursuing it rigorously. I'm presently a PhD student, and I'm proud to be part of that as a Nigerian. And I'm completing my PhD next year, by the grace of God. Now, let me tell you, the economy that he's talking about, who caused the inflation that we're experiencing now? It is President Trump during his tenure that caused it because he mismanaged the COVID-19. When COVID-19 started, I must tell you, there was nothing, no grocery on the street. No grocery, nothing. And he asked people to be using Lysol to COVID-19, to be drinking Lysol to cure COVID-19. And let me tell you, President Trump has the information as at that time that COVID-19 was coming. He did not act. He refused to believe that COVID-19 was going to be a true pandemic. Because historically, this is not the first pandemic in human life.
And we will be discussing. Right. We're not discussing the pandemic today. I mean, it's just a few hours to election. Thankfully, you both have voted. I want to thank you both, Kehinde and Adetomiwa, for coming on the program. Thank you so much. We'll be reaching out to you again. I'm sure there'll be other opportunities for you to discuss your thoughts on the American economy as well as immigration. And I know that we're all looking forward to the end of the elections as well as the results. Thank you so much, Kehinde in New York and Adetomiwa in Illinois, Chicago. Thank you both. I'll take a short break now. When we come back, more discussions up ahead. Stay with us. We are monitoring every angle of this election. It will be a historic one for the United States. America might be electing its first black female president or re-electing Donald Trump, who's been president before. Let's speak to our correspondent in Washington now, Maria Bird, who has been traversing the length and breadth of the U.S. Capitol. Maria, thanks for joining us on the program. I can tell that you have been out and about. We'll be discussing more with you much later. But let's begin with the protest that happened over the weekend and why those women felt the need to do that just days from the elections.
Well, you know, these are very contentious times in the U.S. and honestly, safety, security are a huge part of this. You know, women's reproductive rights are key and extremely a large part of what we're seeing as far as what is being asked for by Americans. And so what we know at this time is that these protests were individuals who wanted their voice heard. And as we know, the U.S. has been a long-standing country that has given people the right to voice their opinions.
Yes, and abortion rights being misinterpreted all over the place, especially by the Trump camp, and then for some Americans who do feel some sense of responsibility and religious intent, hate the issue of abortion. It is divisive, I would say, in America today. Why is this so?
It's divisive because of the moral pieces to it. So morality has become a huge part of this election cycle. We know that abortion, bans around abortion have been happening over the last few years. We know in the last previous Trump administration that there was much work being done to reverse Roe versus Wade. And as we know, many states now ban abortion. But we also know the Democratic Party has been a long-standing advocate for women's rights and reproduction. We know there's a much larger picture to the abortion laws that really look at almost the women's health, the women's rights. And so we know that some people don't believe in abortion, but we also know that within the women's reproductive rights issues, there's much more there around the woman's right to being able to have appropriate maternal care services, women that are raped and their ability to not have to bear a child through those type of circumstances. And so it's a large scale challenge and issue here in the United States, but has become a cornerstone of how people are deciding to vote in this current election cycle. And so, as you said, women came out, they're requesting their voices to be heard, and they're requesting that Americans understand how important it is to be able to have the right for women to have the right to be able to have ownership of their bodies and to be able to make decisions about their health.
And about the preparations in Washington, D.C., businesses boarding up. This is very unusual practice ahead of Election Day. Talk to us about, the presence of security personnel on the ground in Washington, D.C., and why this is so. I mean, I know they're referring to what happened on January 6, 2021, but this is still the election, right? It's not the inauguration yet.
You're correct. It has been very clear that there will be lots of ramping up of security between now and the inauguration. So depending on whichever way that the election does turn out on tomorrow, we'll still have heightened security, especially in Washington, but across the country. Why people are boarding up their buildings, there have been threats, and obviously there's been a lot of discussion that regardless of which way it goes, we could see an outcry and an outbreak of protest And unfortunately, sometimes those protests turn violent. So I think there is angst, there's anxiety. As you mentioned, this is not January 6th, but I think people are continuing to play that in their mind, what happened on January 6th, and knowing how polar opposite these candidates are, and to know that their supporters are extremely committed to their cause, and how if either the party, whichever one wins, how this will be a major challenge in that area. So it is clear that they are going to be heightened security, not only today and tomorrow, but until the inauguration.
So we're going to be waiting for Election Day. Maria, we'll see you out there on the field. Thank you again. And that's it. Today's edition of our special coverage of the U.S. presidential elections. We're back again at 5 tomorrow, so you can have updates on the program itself as well as elections. We'll have our correspondents on the ground all across the United States and analysts who will be looking at the issues. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani.